Ladies and gentlemen, I am Kelowna's Cougar Meat Kid Colin Cutler for the World of Great podcast. I'd like to start this video by apologizing for all of our regulars that watch us live on Sundays at 11 a.m. on Facebook. I got called into work on Sunday, so we had to skip the recording that day. To catch up on former videos, follow this YouTube channel, World of Great Podcast. All our podcasts, especially the most recent ones, start to finish about 45 minutes. Find the topic that interests you the most. Catch up, throw it on when you're, cleaning the house or driving around or just got nothing else going on. If you're new to this channel or to the World of Great podcast, I'd like to preface this video by saying we are an opinion show. Myself and the Flow Mike Chisholm, we have a lot of opinions on a lot of topics. Some are very researched, some are not so researched, and we really try to explore the world of gray on a lot of different topics. Some that we know quite a bit about, some we don't know much about at all, but we never pretend or say we are experts in any one topic. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. We're living in what many have called, but I reiterate, the post-truth era, which is kind of where truth isn't as important as cult of personality or feelings. And I'm not talking about the classic right-wing facts don't care about your feelings, because that's been bastardized to death. But I really try, at least in my own rhetoric on this podcast, I don't like to speak for Mike and his intentions in this podcast, but to either bring attention to topics that I feel need attention being brought to them, so that everyone watching us can do a little bit more research on topics that I feel are important. One example would be the siege warfare in Yemen. But again, I'm not an expert in something. I just think that when there's something that's not being talked about as serious as the war in Yemen, not only do I question why, but I think everybody should question why and do a little bit of research. I'm not saying you have to. I just like to bring things to people's attention. If it sparks interest, great. Because maybe you didn't hear about it anywhere else, right? Maybe it pops up in your newsfeed and I'm the first person to kind of say something about it. So then you go and do some research. That all being said, the fact that we come on here and we either get philosophical or we throw kind of daily current events out and we throw around our opinions, this is because myself and Mike Chisholm both feel that these conversations are necessary. To have face-to-face conversations with somebody and see their reaction and to try to find either some middle ground or to teach each other about some topic. I feel like this is something that is lacking. Too many of us are hiding behind keyboards and just either spouting off things that we think are fact or spouting off our opinions because we don't like the opposite views. Now, there's a psychological phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect that explains what I'm talking about in depth a little bit more. And this is when somebody lacks self-awareness to any one topic, and even though they're not an expert in something, because they've read a couple articles or watched some YouTube videos, they then act like they are an expert in this, and any other opposing opinions, even if they're backed up by facts, just don't matter to that original individual that was spouting off their opinion. And you see it a lot with certain YouTube personalities. Stefan Molyneux is one that comes to mind. Ben Shapiro to a degree, but he's pretty good with having some facts to back up his delirium, even if they're twisted. But you do see this a lot in YouTube videos as well, is where facts get twisted and manipulated to get a broader point, and then people will watch this and then that becomes their opinion as well. We've talked about echo chambers in the past. You can go back and watch some of our past podcasts, and we do talk about that as well. But I think this Dunning-Kruger effect is a fascinating topic, fascinating psychological phenomenon, and if you've never heard of it and you are this type of person that acts like they're an expert in thing but you've never heard of this, maybe go look at that and maybe that'll bring some self-awareness. But in kind of just reading some of the definitions of this Dunning-Kruger effect, because I've heard about this effect a lot in the past, one other not condition but other phenomenon type thing popped up, and when it's talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect, it's saying people lack what's called metacognition. So I just kind of want to read the Wikipedia definition of metacognition. So Metacognition is cognition about cognition, or thinking about thinking, or knowing about knowing, or being aware of one's awareness. I'm not going to read the whole definition, but I find this fascinating because this is something that I try really hard to do myself, is always not only just think about my own biases, but also think about how the human brain forms thoughts and our own opinions of things. And I think that's really important, to not only form an opinion, because I do think that's important, but also challenge your own opinions. I don't think that we should be so malleable as to every video we watch, we constantly flip-flopping our opinions. I do think some sort of filtration is necessary, but I think there is a huge majority of people and climbing that lack this metacognition, and just as soon as something sounds good to their own biases, so it makes them feel better about any one topic, and usually selfishly, they're just going to cling to that one opinion. And I'll give you an example for myself that is still a biasy to this day, even though I understand it's a biasy, because emotionally I want it to be true more than its opposing view. And that is that I believe collectivism is more natural than a hierarchy system when it comes to humans. But this is one of those very broad topics that I feel I could be dead wrong about, but I don't want to be wrong about it, because that changes like most of my opinions of a lot of things. You know, that humans are inherently not evil, but inherently just want to screw each other over, and inherently looking to you know, fight and have competition, and that's the driving force of humanity. Personally, I think that from the things I've read, and in my opinion, again, I'm not an expert in any one thing, I feel that our competitive system has just been around for so long, since the post-Neolithic revolution of the creation of agriculture, is that we're just conditioned to this competitive nature. When you look at old agrarian societies, you know, hunter-gatherers, where they had a lot more collectivism, and that's how their system works. So I don't think that the hierarchy system of organizing society is absolutely 100% necessary and the only way to go. But what I'm saying is I could be wrong. And there's the flip side to this psychological phenomenon, where the more you try to learn about a topic objectively, the more you realize that you just don't really know about this. And again, I just want to use anecdotal evidence or stories or experiences, because that's, you know, a big part of kind of what this podcast is about, is our own experiences and how biases form our opinions. And we do talk about this a lot, but for myself in the fitness world, I feel like I always get to these points where I think I know a lot about certain things in the realm of fitness, but the more research that comes out, the more I really start questioning a lot of things, to a point where I've had to like create this imaginary like ticker timer in my head. So if somebody asks me a question and I start spouting off the answer that is the last research I learned, as I'm saying it or before I am giving them this answer, I got to think, when's the last time I looked that up? When's the last time I researched this topic and got the newest information, or am I going off of old information? And unfortunately, too many of us don't do this, and too many of us cling to our opinions, because it's supernatural to have that confirmation bias and to cling to opinions that we've made, and to always feed our biases. So all I'm trying to say is, in the realm of civil discourse, we really need to have self-awareness of the information we bring in, and I want to make this video now very purposefully, because I feel like this is the era that we're in, where it's really easy to form your own truth, not the truth, because we are all just living in a society divided by black and white arguments. But I feel like it's my job, my passion, my journey, along with the Flow Mike Chisholm, to explore the world of gray. I am Kelowna's Cougar Meat Kid, Colin Cutler. Nothing but peace, nothing but love. Like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, click the bell so you get notifications for when we go live. Peace.